chance. जय प्रमुख
संसारदावा नललिदलोका त्रनय कारुण्य घना घनात्वं
नललिदलोका त्रनय कारुण्य घना घनात्वं
संसारदावा नललिदलोका त्रनय कारुण्य घना घनात्वं
संसारधाव नललिदलोका त्रनय कारुण्य घना घनात्वं
प्राप्तस्य कल्याण गुणार्णवस्य वन्दे गुरो श्रीचरणरविन्दं
प्राप्तस्य कल्याण गुणार्णवस्य वन्दे गुरो श्रीचरणरविन्दं
महाप्रभु कीर्तन नृत्य गीता वादित्रमाद्यान् मनसो रसेना
महाप्रभु कीर्तन नित्य गीता वादित्रमाद्यान् मनसुरसेना
रोमाञ्चकम्पा सुतरङ्गबाजो वन्दे गुरो श्रीचरणरविन्दं
रोमाञ्चकम्पा सुतरङ्गबाजो वन्दे गुरो श्रीचरणरविन्दं
श्रीविग्रहाराधननित्यनाना शृङ्गारतान्मन्दिरमर्जनाधो
श्रीविग्रहाराधन नित्यनाना शृङ्गारतन्मन्दिरमर्जनाधो
युक्तस्य भक्तां शनियुञ्जतोऽपि वन्दे गुरो श्रीचरणरविन्दं
युक्तस्य भक्तं स नियुञ्जतोऽपि वन्दे गुरो श्रीचरणरविन्दं
चतुर्विधा श्रीभगवत्प्रसाद स्वाद्वन्नतृप्तान् हरिभक्तसङ्घान्
चतुर्विधा श्री भगवत्प्रसाद स्वातन्नतृप्तान् हरिभक्तसङ्घान्
कृतैव तृप्तिं भजत सदैव वन्दे गुरो श्रीचरणरविन्दं
तृप्तिं भजत सदैव वन्दे गुरो श्रीचरणरविन्दं
श्रीराधिका माधव धवयोरपारा माधुर्य लीला गुणरूप नाम्ना
Siradhika Madhavayarapara Madhurya Leela Gunarupanamna
प्रतीक्षणा स्वाधनलोलुपस्य वन्दे गुरो श्रीचरणारविन्दम्
Pratikshana Sadhanalaropasa Vande Guru Shri Charanaravindam
प्रतीक्षणा स्वाधनलोलुपस्य वन्दे गुरो श्रीचरणारविन्दम्
Pratikshana Sadhanalaropasa Vande Guru Shri Charanaravindam
निकुञ्जयुनो रतकेलि सिद्धै यायालि भिर्युक्तिरपेक्षणीया
Nikunjayuno Ratikeli Siddhai Yayaliviyo Tirapekaniya
तत्रार्ति दक्ष दतिवल्लभस्य वन्दे गुरो श्रीचरणारविन्दम्
Tatiraka Ativalabhasa Vande Guru Shri Charanaravindam
साक्षादरित्वेन समस्तशास्त्रे उक्तस्तथा भाव्यत एव सद्भिः
Satyadaridvena Samastashashe Nuktastatthava Dataiva Sarve
किन्तु प्रभोया प्रिय एव तस्य वन्दे गुरो श्रीचरणारविन्दम्
Kintu Prabodha Priya Bhattasa Vande Guru Shri Charanaravindam
यस्य प्रसादात् भगवत्प्रसादो यस्य प्रसादान् न गति कुतोऽपि
Yasha Prasada Bhagavat Prasada Yasha Prasada Nagati Kutati
ध्यायां सुवं सस्य यस्य स्त्रीसन्ध्यां वन्दे गुरो श्रीचरणारविन्दम्
Jayam Stuvam Tasya Visatri Sandham Vande Guru Shri Charanaravindam
ध्यायां सुवं सस्य यस्य स्त्रीसन्ध्यां वन्दे गुरो श्रीचरणारविन्दम्
Jayam Stuvam Tasya Yashastri Sandhya Vande Guru Shri Charanaravindam
नमः विष्णुपदाय कृष्णपृष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदान्त स्वामीति नामिने
Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Pristaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swaminiti Namine
नमस्ते सारस्वती देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्यादिशतारिणे
Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nivishesha Sunyavadi Pachattarishatarine
जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैता Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda.
Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda
Nityananda
Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda.
Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda.
Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya
Chaitanya
Prabhu Nityananda
Nityananda
Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda.
Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda.
Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda
Nityananda
Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda.
Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare.
Krishna Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare Hare
Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare Hare
Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare Hare
Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare
Hare Ram 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare Hare
Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare
Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare
Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare
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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare
Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare
Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare
Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama
Rama
Rama Hare Hare
Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare
Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Rama
Rama
Hare Hare
Jaya Radha Nila Madhav Shri Radhe
Jaya Radha Nila Madhava Shri Radhe
Jaya Radha Shyam Sundar Radha Shyam Sundar Shri Radhe
Jaya Radha Sama Sundara Radha Sama Sundara Radhe
Jaya Jagannatha Jaya Jagannatha Jaya Baladeva Jaya Subhadra
Jaya Jagannath Jaya Jaya Subhadra
Jaya Lakshmi Narsimha Jaya Lakshmi Narsimha Jaya Lakshmi Narsimha Jaya Lakshmi Narsimha
Lakshmi Narasingha Jaya Lakshmi Narasingha Jaya Lakshmi Narasingha
Jaya Sitaram 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 Jaya Lakshmana Hanuman
Jaya Sitaram 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 Jaya Lakshmana Hanuman
Jaya Gaura Nitai Jaya Gaura Nitai Jaya Gaura Nitai Jaya Gaura Nitai
Jaya Gaura Nitai Gaura Nitai Gaura Nitai Jaya Gaura Nitai
Jaya Jaya Prabhupada 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 Jaya Jaya Prabhupada
Jaya Jaya Prabhupada 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 Jaya Jaya Prabhupada
Jaya Jaya Gurudev
जय विष्णु पार परमहंस प्रभुपादाचार्य सुत्तर सरस्वती श्रीमारि इस्कॉन प्रतिष्ठा विविधि संस्थापकाचार्य वैष्णव शिरोमणि गौर प्रियजन कृष्ण प्रेम भक्ति रत पतित पावन His Divine Grace अभय चरविंद भक्ति वेदांत स्वामी महाराज श्री प्रभुपाद जी की जय, श्री गौरी गुरु वर्ग पतित उदार की जय, श्री रूप सनातन भक्त रघुनाथ श्री जीव गोपाल भक्त दास गुण सतगोस्वामी प्रभु की जय, नामाचार्य शील हरिदास ठाकुर जी की जय, जय अनंत कोटि वैष्णव वृंद की जय, प्रेम से कहो श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधार शिवासरि गौर भक्त वृंद की जय, परम दयाल श्री नित्यानंद प्रभु की जय, प्रेम नाम संकीर्तन एक जनक प्रेम पुरुषोत्तम श्री सच्चिदानंद स्मन गौरांग चैतन्य महाप्रभु गौर हरि महावरण अवतार की जय, गोलोकेर प्रमधान हरि नाम संकीर्तन जय की जय, जुग धर्म हरे कृष्ण महामंत्र की जय, बृहद निदांग ट्रांसलेंटल बुक डिस्ट्रीब्यूशन सेवा की जय, श्री श्री राधा कृष्ण गोप गोपना राधा कुंद समकुंद गिरिराज गोवर्धन की जय, श्री ब्रज भूमि वृंदावन मथुराम की जय, जलोशिव श्री श्री राधा नील माधव की जय, सिमय पूर्णवती एक चक्र धाम की जय, परम करुण श्री गौर निताय की जय, श्री पुरुषोत्तम कित्र जगन्नाथपुरी धाम की जय, श्री श्री जगन्नाथ स्वामी बलदेव प्रभु श्रीमती सुभद्रा देवी सुदर्शन चक्र भगवान की जय, भक्ति सर्व विघ्न विनाशन कर सिंगरे भगवान की जय, जय गंगा माई जमुना माई की, तुलसी महारानी वृंद देवी भक्ति देवी की जय, बोलो श्री मथुरा रानी की, समवेत भक्त वृंद की, बोलो निताय गौरी प्रमानंदे, all glories to the Assembled Bodies, all glories to the Assembled Bodies, all glories to the Assembled Bodies, all glories, all glories, all glories to Shri Shri Guru Shri Gauranga. Namaste Narasingaya, Namaste Narasingaya, Pralada Narada Aine, Pralada Narada Aine, Hiranyakashipu Vaksha, Silatangkanakalaye, Jaya Silatangkanakalaye, Ito Nisingo Parato Nisinga, Ito Nisingo Parato Nisinga, Jato Jato Jami Tato Nisinga, Bairi Nisingo Rudaye Nisinga, Narasingha Madhimi Sharanam Prapade, Taba Kara Kamala Bare Naka Adabhuta Sringa, Dalita Hiranyakashipu Tanabringa, Keshavadrita Narahari Rupa Jai Jagadisha Re, Jai Jagadisha Re, Jai Jagadisha Re. Jaya Kesavadrita Narahari Rupa Jai Jagadisha Re, Jai Jagadisha Re, Jai Jagadisha Re. Kesavadrita Narahari Rupa Jai Jagadisha Re, Jaya Nishingare, Jaya Nishingare, Nishingare, Jaya Nishingare. Jaya Narahari, Jaya Narahari, Narahari, Jaya Narahari. Jaya Lakshmi Narasingha, Jaya Lakshmi Narasingha, Jaya Lakshmi Narasingha, Jaya Lakshmi Narasingha. Jaya Bhakta Prahlad, Prahlad Maharaj, Bhakta Prahlad, Srila Prahlad Maharaj. Nitai Gora Haribo, 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 Nitai Gora Haribo. Jai Shri Bhakti Pada Sara Vigna Vinashana Kanu Singare Bhagavan ki Jai, Bhakta Shrestha Prahlad Maharaj ki Jai, Nitai Gaura Hari Premanande Haribo. Shri Vrindai Tulasi Devi Priya Ke Sava Satya Vishnu Bhakti Prade Devi Satavatai Namo Namah. Vrindai Tulasi Devi Priya Ke Sava Satya Vishnu Bhakti Prade Devi Satavatai Namo Namah. Vrindai Tulasi Devi Priya Ke Sava Satya Krishna Bhakti Prade Devi Satavatai Namo Namah. Jai Shrimati Tulasi Maharani Vrinda Devi Ki Jai.
Namo Namaha
Tulasi Krishna Preyasi Namo Namaha. Tulasi Krishna Preyasi Namo Namaha. Radha Krishna Seva Pavo Heya Vilasi. Radha Krishna Seva Pavo Heya Vilasi. Je tomara sharanalay tara vancha purna. Tumi kripa kare karo tare Vrindavanavasi. Moraya Vilas, Vilas Kunjayava. Aminayane Vivasada Yugalaru Parasi. Nivedanadhara Sakirayana Gatakara
Sevadikara diye karo nijadasi.
Sevayadikara diye karo nijadasi. Dina Krishna Daseko Heyena Mora.
Shri Radha Govinda Preme Sadaye Navasi.
Shri Radha Govinda Preme Sadaye Navasi. Shri Radha Govinda Preme Sadaya Navasi.
Kani kani japa pani Brahma Hachadi kani cha Tani tani pranashanti Pradakshina pade pade.
Jani kani sapapani Brahma Hatyadi Kanisa Tani tani pranashanti Pradakshina Jani kani sapapani Brahma hattari kanisha Tani tani prana santi Pradakti na pare pane
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Jaya Tulasi Maharani, Jaya Tulasi Maharani, Jaya Tulasi Maharani, Jaya Tulasi Maharani.
Jaya Tulsi Maharani, Jaya Tulsi Maharani,
Jaya
Tulsi Maharani, Jaya Tulsi Maharani.
Jaya Vrunda Devi, Jaya Vrunda Devi, Jaya Vrunda Devi, Jaya Vrunda Devi.
Jaya Vrinda Devi, Jaya Vrinda Devi, Vrinda Devi, Jaya Vrinda Devi.
Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Jaya Prabhupada.
Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Jaya Prabhupada.
Jaya Jaya Gurudev, 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 Jaya Jaya Gurudev.
Jaya Jaya Gurudev, 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 Jaya Jaya Gurudev. Shri Vrindai Tulasi Devai Priyaye Kesava Satya Vishnu Bhakti Prade Devi Sattvatyai Namo Namah. Vrindayai Tulasi Devai Priyaye Kesava Satya Vishnu Bhakti Prade Devi Sattvatyai Namo Namah. Vrindayai Tulasi Devai Priyaye Kesava Satya Krishna Bhakti Prade Devi Sattvatyai Namo Namah. Jai Shrimati Tulasi Maharani Vrinda Devi Ki Jai. O Tulasi, beloved Krishna, I bow before you again and again. My desire to obtain the service of Shri Radha and Krishna. Whoever takes shelter of you as wishes fulfilled, bestow your mercy upon him, you make him resident of Vrindavan. My desire that you also grant me a residence in pleasure groves of Sri Vrindavan Dham. Thus, within my vision, I will always behold the beautiful pastimes of Radha and Krishna. I beg you to make me a follower carry the damsels of Raj. Please give me the privilege of devotional service and make me your own maid servant. This very fallen and lowly servant of Krishna praise. May I always swim in love with Shri Radha and Govind. Shri Mati Tulsi Maharani Vrinda Devi Ki Jai. So there are 10 offenses in matter of chanting the holy name of the Lord that should be avoided. They are as follows. One, bodies dedicate a life of propagating the holy name of the Lord. Two, to consider names of demigods, the Lord Shiva and Lord Brahma, to be equal to or independent of the name of Lord Vishnu. Three, to disobey the order of the spiritual master. Four, to blaspheme the Vedic scriptures or scriptures in pursuance of Vedic version. Five, to consider the glory of chanting Hare Krishna to be imagination. Six, to give some interpretation to the holy name of the Lord. Seven, to commit sinful activities on the strength of chanting the holy name. Eight, to consider the chanting Hare Krishna as one of the auspicious ritualistic activities offered in Vedas as fruitive activities, karma kanda. 9, to instruct the faithless person by the glories of the holy name. And 10, to not have complete faith in chanting the holy names and to maintain material attachments, even after understanding so many instructions on this matter. It also an offense to be inattentive while chanting. Every devotee who claims to be Vaishnava must carefully guard against these 10 offenses in order to quickly achieve the desired success. Krishna Prem. Now let us offer most humble obeisance to all the Vaishnavas, devotees of the Lord. They are just like desired trees, they can fulfill the desires of everyone, and they are full of compassion for the fallen conditioned souls. Jai Bancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhu Vaivacha Paritanam Pavanibhyo Vaishnavibhyo Namo Namaha Jai Ananta Koti Vaishnavindiki Jai. Shri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu Shri Kastakam Ki Jai. Chaito Darpanamanjanam Bhava Mahada Vagninivapanam Shriyakari Vachandrika Vitaranam Vidyavadu Jivanam Anandam Buddhivardhanam Pratipadam Purnamrita Shradanam Sarvatmasnam Parampara Vijayati Shri Krishna Sankirtanam Nam Namakari Vaudha Nija Sarva Shaktis Tatrarpita Niyamita Shmarane Nakala Etadrishi Tava Kripaya Bhagavan Mamapi Durdhaivam Idrisham Ya Janina Nuraga Trinadapi Sunichena Tarorapi Saishnuna Amanina Manadena Kirtaniya Sada Hari Nadhanam Najanam Nasundarim Kavitam Vajagadishakamaye Mama Janmani Janmanishwari Bhavata Bhakti Raitukitvai Ainandatanu Jakinkaram Paritama Vishame Bhavam Buddho Kripaya Tapapar Pankaja Sthita Dhuli Sadrisham Vichintaya Nayanam Galora Shudaraya Vadanam Gadagada Rudhaya Gira Purakairichitam Vapukada Tavanama Grahane Bhavishyati Jugaitam Nimishena Chakyusha Prabhusaitam Sunyaitam Jagata Sarvam Govinda Virahename Aslishava Padratam Pinashtumam Adarshanar Marmatam Karotuva Jatatatthava Vidadhatulam Pata Matpranatastu Saivana Para Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Shri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu Shri Kastakam Ki Jai. Namo Mahavarannaya Krishna Prema Pradayate Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namine Gaura Krishna Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Shmate Bhakti Vedanta Saminiti Namine Namaste Saraswati Devam Gauravani Pracharine Nivishesha Sunnavari Patsatyari Satarine. Glory to the Shri Krishna Sankirtana, which cleanses the heart of the dust accumulated for years and extinguishes the fire conditioned life of repeated birth and death. This Sankirtan moment is the prime benediction for humanity at large, because its praise raises the benediction moon. It is the life of all transcendental knowledge. It increases the ocean of transcendental bliss and enables us to fully taste the nectar for which always anxious. O my Lord, Your holy name alone can render all benediction to living beings, and thus you have hundreds, millions of names like Krishna and Govinda. In these transcendental names you have invested all your transcendental energies. They are not even hard and fast rules for chanting these names. Oh my Lord, out of kindness you enable us to easily approach you by holy names, but I'm so unfortunate that I have no attraction for them. Once you chant the holy name of the Lord in a humble state of mind, thinking oneself Lord and strong in the street, one should be more tolerant than a tree, devoid of all sense of false prestige, and should be ready to offer all respect to others. In such state of mind, one can chant the holy name of the Lord constantly. O Almighty Lord, I have no desire to accumulate wealth, nor do I desire beautiful women, nor do I want any number of followers. I only want your causeless devotional service, birth after birth. O son of Maharaj Nanda Krishna, I am your eternal servitor. Yes, somehow or other I'm falling in this ocean of birth and death. Please pick me up from this ocean of death and place me as one of the atoms at the yellow of the sweet. O my Lord, when will my eyes be decorated with tears of love, flowing constantly when I chant your holy name? When will my voice choke up, and will the hairs of my body stand on the end of the recitation of your name? O Govinda, feeling your separation, I am considering a moment to be like 12 years or more. Tears are flowing from my eyes like torrents of rain. I am feeling all vacant in the world in your absence. I know no one but Krishna as my Lord, and he should remain so, even if handles me roughly by his embrace, or makes me broken-hearted by not being present before me. He is completely free to do anything and everything, for he is always my worshipful Lord, unconditionally. Shri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu Shri Kyastakam Ki Jai. Shri Guru Vandana Mangala Charan Ki Jai. Om Gyana Timirandasya Gyananjana Salakaya Chakchurunmilitam Jena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manovistam Stapitam Jena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swaparantikam Bandeham Shri Guru Shri Jotapara Shri Gurun Vaishnavam Cha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunatha Vintam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakam Vitam Cha Nama Om Vishnu Padayo Krishna Pristaya Bhutale Shrimati Bhakti Vedanta Swaminiti Namine Namaste Saraswati Devim Gauravani Pracharine Nivishesha Sunnavadi Patsatyari Satarine Nama Om Vishnu Padayo Krishna Pristaya Bhutale Shrimati Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Iti Namine Shri Varshabhana Videvi Deitaya Kripabdaye Krishna Sambandha Vijnana Daine Prabhave Namaha Madhurjo Jala Premadhya Shri Rupanuga Bhaktida Shri Gaura Karuna Shakti Vigrahaya Namostute Namaste Gauravani Shimurtai Dinatarine Rupanuga Viruddha Pusidanta Dantarine Namagaura Kishoraya Sakshave Ragyamurtaye
Vipralambara Sambodhe Padambajayate Namaha Namo Bhakti Vinodaya Sachitinanda Namine Gaura Shakti Swarupaya Rupanuga Vrayate Gaura Vibhava Bhimistvam Nirdesta Sajjana Priya Vaishnava Sarvabhoma Sri Jagannathayate Namaha Vanchakalpa Durabhishcha Kripa Sindhu Bhevicha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Namo Mahavadanyaya Krishna Prema Padayate Krishna Krishna Chaitanya Namne Gaura Chise Namaha Panchatattvatmakam Krishnam Bhakta Rupa Swarupakam Bhakta Avataram Bhakta Kam Namami Bhakta Saktakam. Hey Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopisha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Navastate Jayatam Suratur Pangur Mama Mandamatir Gati Matsarva Swapadambuja Radha Madhana Mohana Divyad Vindaranya Kalpa Madaha Shimad Ratnagara Simasnatu Shimad Radha Shila Govinda Devo Prastali Bihi Sevyamana Smarami Siman Rasara Sambampi Mam Sivatavata Sisa Karsan Venuswane Gopir Gopinatak Stunak Tapta Kanchana Gorangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Rishabhanustute Devi Pranamami Hari Priya Jai Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Vaitik Radhar Srivasadi Gaur Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Shri Brahma Samiti Ki Jai Ishwara Parama Krishna Sachitananda Vigraha Nadiradi Govinda Sarvakarana Karanam Chintamani Prakara Sadma Sukalpa Riksha Laksa Vitesu Surabhira Vipaliantam Lakshmi Sasasat Sambram Samyabam Govinda Madi Purisham Tamaham Bajami Alola Chandra Kala Sadvana Malyavam Sirat Nam Ganambra Yadikala Vilasam Shamanti Mangala Litani Taprakasam Govinda Madi Purisham Tamaham Bajami Angani Yasya Sakilendriya Vittimanti Pasyanti Panti Kalyanti Chiram Jaganti Ananda Chinmaya Sadujvala Vigrasya Govinda Madi Purisham Tamaham Bajami Advaitam Achutamanadem Ananta Rupam Adyam Purana Purisham Navayovanam Cha Vedesa Durlabam Adurlabam Atma Bhakto Govinda Madi Purisham Tamaham Bajami Pantasta Koti Satavatsara Sampagam Yovayo Ratapi Manasobari Pungamana Sopyasti At Prapadasimya Vijentya Tatve Govinda Madi Purisham Tamaham Bajami Ekopya Sora Chaitam Jagaranda Koti Yes Chakti Rasti Jagaranda Chaya Yadanta Antanta Rasta Paramanu Chayanta Astam Govinda Madi Purisham Tamaham Bajami Yad Bhava Bhavita Diyo Manajasta Taiva Samprapya Rupa Mahima Sanayan Bhusa Suktari Mavi Nigama Pratitastavanti Govinda Madi Purisham Tamaham Bajami Ananda Chinmaya Rasapati Bhavita Vista Virya Evini Chirupa Daya Kalabi Goloka Evini Vasata Kilatma Bhuto Govinda Madi Purisham Kamaham Bajami Premanjana Churita Bhakti Vilochanena Santaksa Deva Hidesa Vilokanati Yam Shama Sundaram Achintya Gunaswarupa Govinda Madi Purisham Tamaham Bajami Ramadi Murti Sukalani Menitista Nalavitara Makarod Bhuvanesa Kintu Krishnak Swayam Samabhavat Paramampaman Yo Govinda Madi Purisham Tamaham Bajami Yasya Prabha Prabhuto Jagananda Koti Koti Svasesa Vasadadi Vibhuti Binam Tad Brahmaniskalamanantam Asesa Bhutam Govinda Madi Purisham Tamaham Bajami Maya Hiyasya Jagananda Satani Sute Trigun Visaya Veda Vidaya Mana Sadvavalamba Parasapam Visuddha Sattvam Govinda Madi Purisham Tamaham Bajami Ananda Chinmayara Satmataya Manasa Yapraninam Patifalam Smaratam Upekya Lila Yadena Bhuvanani Jaya Jasram Govinda Madi Purisham Tamaham Bajami Goloka Namni Nijdanamni Talichita Siddhi Mahesu Atesha Tasji Govinda Madi Purisham Tamaham Bajami Sisti Tipalaya Sadhava Sakti Reka Jaya Vyasya Bhuvanani Vivarti Durga Ichana Rupam Apyasya Chitesta Tesa Govinda Madi Purisham Tamaham Bajami Shriram Yata Dadi Vikara Visesa Yoga Sanjayatena Hitata Pritakasti Hetu Yasambhutama Pitata Samapaitikaya Govinda Madi Purisham Tamaham Bajami Diparchide Vidya Santanam Abhipedya Dipayate Viriteta Samanudharma Yastadrike Vihicha Vishnutaya Vibhati Govinda Madi Purisham Tamaham Bajami Yakarna Narnava Jali Bhajatisma Yoga Nidramananta Jagadanda Saroma Kupa Adhara Saktim Avalambya Param Samurtim Govinda Madi Purisham Tamaham Bajami Yasyaikanisva Sittakalam Atavalambya Shivanti Loma Vilaja Jagadanda Nata Vishnu Mahansa Yasyakala Visheshu Govinda Madi Purisham Tamaham Bajami Basmanya Tasma Sakaleshana Jeshadeja Sriyam Kiyat Prakatiyata Pitadratatra Brahmaya Esa Jagadanda Vidanukarta Govinda Madi Purisham Tamaham Bajami Yat Pada Pala Vyagam Vinidaya Kumbadwande Pranama Samaya Sakaladi Raja Bignan Behantamalamashi Jagatrasya Govinda Madi Purisham Tamaham Bajami Agni Mahika Ganamambu Marudisasya Kalasta Tatma Manasiti Jagatrayani Yasmad Bhavanti Vivanti Visantinam Cha Govinda Madi Purisham Tamaham Bajami Yas Chaksuresa Savitasya Kalagrana Raja Samastasrama Murtira Sesa Teja Yasyagaya Brahmati Sambrita Kala Chakra Govinda Madi Purisham Tamaham Bajami Dharmota Papa Nijanav Sutastapam Se Brahmadi Kita Patagaba Deasta Jiva Yadata Matri Bhava Katabhava Govinda Madi Purisham Tamaham Bajami Yastrendra Gopa Matavenda Mahuswa Karma Bandana Rupa Falabhajana Matanoti Karmani Nidhati Kinchita Bhakti Bhaja Govinda Madi Purisham Tamaham Bajami Yam Kroda Kama Sahaja Pranadi Biti Vatsaya Muhugur Gora Vasevya Bhava Sanchinti Tasya Sadhusintanam Apurete Govinda Madi Purisham Tamaham Bajami Sriya Kanta Kanta Parama Purusha Kopatarava Trumabu Mishchitamani Ganama Itoyam Amritam Kataganam Nadyam Gamanam Apivam Sipriyasaki Chiranandam Jyoti Parama Pitata Swadyam Apichasa Yatra Siradi Vihisravadi Suravi Vyasta Sumahan Mesa Dakyavava Jitina Yatra Pisamaya Bhaji Svita Diptam Tamaham Iyo Golokamityam Pidan Sase Santakshiti Varacha Katipaye Guru the spiritual master receiving benediction from the ocean of mercy, just as the cloud pours water on the forest fire to extinguish it, so the spiritual master delivers the materially afflicted world by extinguishing the blazing fire. Material existence for my respectful base not the lotus feet, such spiritual master is an ocean of auspicious quality. Chanting the holy name, dancing in ecstasy, singing and playing musical instruments, the spiritual master is always gladdened by the sanctity movement of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Because he is relishing the mellows of pure devotion with his mind, sometimes his hair stands on it. He feels a quivering in his body and tears flow from his eyes like waves over my respectful base not the lotus Sweet, such spiritual master. The spiritual master is always engaged in temple worship of Shri Radha and Krishna. He also engages his disciples in such worship. They dress the deities in beautiful clothes and ornaments, clean their temple, and perform other similar worship of the Lord. From my respect for basis unto Lotus Sweet, such spiritual master. The spiritual master is always offering Krishna four kinds of delicious food, analyzed that which is like chew, drunk, and suck. When the spiritual master sees that the devotees are satisfied by eating Bhagavad Prasada, he is satisfied to offer my respectful basis unto Lotus Sweet, such spiritual master. The spiritual master is always eager to hear and cheer about the unlimited conscious capacity, erotic and Madhav in their qualities, names, and forms. The spiritual master aspires to relish these at every moment, offer my respectful basis unto the Lotus Sweet, such spiritual master. The spiritual master is very dear because he is expert in assisting gopis who at different times make different tastes of relations with the perfection of Radha and Krishna. Conjugal loving affairs within the groves of Vrindavan, offer my most humble basis unto the Lotus Sweet, such spiritual master. The spiritual master, to be honored as my supreme Lord, because he is the most competent to serve the Lord. This is acknowledged in all revealed scriptures and followed by all authorities. Therefore, for my respectful basis unto the Lotus Sweet, such spiritual master is a bona fide representative of Sri Hare Krishna. By the mercy of the spiritual master, one receives the benediction of Krishna. And without the grace of the spiritual master, one cannot make any advancement. Therefore, I should always remember and praise the spiritual master at least 3 times a day. I should offer my respectful basis unto the Lotus Feet of my spiritual master, his divine grace. A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Shrimad Bhagavatam Grantaraja Ki Jai. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Shrimad Bhagavatam, Canto 3, Chapter 7, verse number 18. Ata bhavam vinischitya pratitasya pinatmana tam japi yusma charana sevayam paranude. Artha abhavam, without substance. Vinishchitya, being ascertained. Pratitasya, of the apparent values. Api, also. Na, never. Atmana, of the self. Tam, that. Cha, also. Api, thus. Yusmat, your. Charana, feet. Sevaya, by service. Aham, myself. Paranude, shall be able to give up. Translation by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. But, my dear sir, I am obliged to you because now I can understand that this material manifestation is without substance, although it appears real. I am confident that by serving your feet, it will be possible for me to give up the false idea. What is the false idea? That is to think that the material world has real substance. Substance in the sense that it is eternal, but it's not eternal. So it's going to appear and disappear. Therefore, although it seems real, actually it is a false idea to want to be happy in such a temporary place. Purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. The sufferings of the conditioned soul are superficial and have no intrinsic value, like the cutting off of one's head in a dream. So when it says superficial, it has nothing to do with the soul. It's only pertinent to the temporary material body. So therefore, the suffering that one may experience has, as it says, has no intrinsic value. Yet, although this statement is theoretically very true, it is very difficult for the common man or the neophyte on the transcendental path to realize practically. However, by serving the feet of great transcendentalists like Maitreya Muni, and by constantly associating with them, one is enabled to give up the false idea that the soul suffers from material pangs. Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. But, my dear sir, I am obliged to you because now I can understand that this material manifestation is without substance, although it appears real. I am confident that by serving your feet, it will be possible for me to give up the false idea. What's the false idea? It's that the soul suffers from material pangs. The soul is eternal. It's not subject to anything material. But if we develop the false ego, we begin to think that I am affected by these things. And one begins to unnecessarily suffer. So this is a big question and big answer. First of all, it says in the Vedas, Sarvam Club Idam Brahma, which means that everything is Krishna in the sense that everything is made of Krishna's energy. The Mayavadis, of course, have a different interpretation of this Vedic phrase, Sarvam Klavidam Brahma. That is, when the vision of a Mahabharata or Mahabhagavata is that everything, Krishna is everything, because everything is made of Krishna's energy. Pumirapo nalo vayu kamano buddhirevicha. The impersonalists argue that Krishna himself has been transformed into many, and that therefore everything is Krishna, and worship of anything is worship of him. This, of course, is a false argument. Let me read that again. The impersonalists argue that Krishna himself has been transformed into many, and that therefore everything is Krishna, and worship of anything is worship of Krishna. That's why it's said that Krishna is everything, but everything is not Krishna. And Mayavadis wrongly interpret. They say, well, if he's everything, that means that he loses his own personal identity. It's just like a piece of paper. If I rip it up into little pieces and throw them away, the original piece of paper is not there anymore. So, because they have a material conception of Krishna, they make all these mistakes. And Prabhupada explains, this false argument is answered by Krishna in the Bhagavad Gita. Although everything is a transformation of the energy of Krishna, he is not present everywhere. He is simultaneously present and not present. So, in the invocation mantra, the Ishopanishad, which says that the Supreme Lord is perfect and complete. And because he's perfect and complete, everything that emanates from him is also perfect and complete. And although infinite, perfect and complete unities emanate from him, still he remains perfect and complete. So this invocation mantra of Ishopanishad defeats the argument of the Mayavadis. So by his energy he is present everywhere, but as the energetic he is not present everywhere. This simultaneous presence and non-presence is inconceivable to our present senses. In other words, if we purify our senses, we might be able to understand this. If our senses remain contaminated by false concepts and false practices such as meat eating, gambling, illicit activities, and intoxication, then we'll never understand, no matter how many times you read it or how many times you hear an explanation. You'll never understand. But a clear explanation is given in the beginning of the Ishopanishad, in which it is stated that the Supreme Lord is so complete that although unlimited energies and their transformations emanate from him, Krishna's personality is not in the least bit transformed. Therefore, since Krishna is the cause of all causes, intelligent persons should take shelter of his lotus feet. Om Purnam Ada Purnam Idam Purnat Purnam Udashite Purnasya Purnam Adaya Purnam Eva Vasishyate. This is the invocation mantra of the Ishopanishad. Let me just read what Prabhupada says here. He says, in the beginning of the Ishopanishad, in which it is stated that the Supreme Lord is so complete that although unlimited energies and their transformations emanate from him, Krishna's personality is not in the least bit transformed. Therefore, since Krishna is the cause of all causes, intelligent persons should take shelter of his lotus feet. Okay, so this is fact. What the Mayavadis say is not fact. It's their speculation. What the scientists say, it's their speculation. What the philosophers say, for the most part, is their speculation. If you understand the invocation mantra, the Isha Upanishad, you can defeat all these people, because they don't understand anything, hardly anything about Krishna. Right? Why not? Because they're engaged in sinful activities, meat eating, gambling, illicit sex, and intoxication. So, this whole cosmic manifestation, the entire material world, is created or made possible because the Supreme Lord, or Krishna, enters into it as Mahavishnu. So it's one of his plenary expansions, Mahavishnu. Before that, he first expands himself as Baladev, or his brother. And then from Baladev comes the first Chaturvyuha, Vasudeva, Sankar's son, Pradyumna, and Aniruddha. Then from the Sankar's son comes Narayana. And then from Narayana, the second Chaturvyuha, Vasudeva, Sankar's son, Pradyumna, and Aniruddha. And then from the Sankar's son, the second Chaturvyuha, comes the Vishnu incarnations, Mahavishnu, Garbhodakshay Vishnu, and Kshirodakshay Vishnu, that enter into the material world. And Mahavishnu doesn't really enter into the material world, but he produces the material world. And when the material creation is over, it's reabsorbed into the body of Mahavishnu. Okay, and then this Garbhodakshay Vishnu enters into every universe, fills it halfway with water, and then reclines on it with Lakshmi, and a lotus flower grows from his belly button, and Lord Brahma is a mental creation of Garbhodakshay Vishnu. And he sits on the whorl, or the lotus flower at the top of the stem. And then eventually, after he meditates for millions of years, he hears Krishna's flute. He becomes enlightened, partially, not completely, but partially. He gets a vision of the spiritual world and Krishna, and he understands his purpose, that is to populate the universe with living entities, and also take part in this, as the secondary creator of the material world. And then from him come all the demigods and all the jivas. And all the jivas, and demigods are jivas also, are impregnated into the material world by the glancing of Mahavishnu. So this is a general, there's more details, but this is a general idea of this expansion, of how it happens. So Krishna is not personally involved in all these things. He's the origin of everything. He's present everywhere as Paramatma. He's also present everywhere as the Brahma Jyoti effulgence, which is the basis of the spiritual world and the material world. So he is everywhere, but yet he's independent. Now, this is impossible for most people to understand, because they can't do such a thing. They believe that if they can't do it, then nobody can do it. But that's not a fact. And when we understand these things about Krishna, then we realize that we have no independent existence. Everything we do, think, want to do, desire, we need Krishna's help. We can't do it on our own. Okay, so the total material energy is agitated by the glance of Mahavishnu, and only then does the interaction of the three material modes begin: goodness, passion, and ignorance. Therefore, it should be concluded that whatever material facilities we are trying to enjoy are available only due to the mercy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So this is the vision of a devotee. He realizes nothing happens by accident, as the ridiculous so-called scientists and anthropologists, and they think it all happened by accident, and everything is only due to material combinations and permutations over a long period of time, and eventually, there's one amoeba and it develops into a human being. This is all nonsense. There's no proof of any of it, and they teach it as if it's science. It's not science, it's junk. So, therefore, now we're hearing how the creation actually takes place. And now, what is our position in all this? So this is explained in a very, let's say, precise and profound way. Our position is that there are 5 departments of existence. Prabhupada uses that word, 5 different departments of existence. They are called Annamaya, Pranamaya, Manomaya, Vijnanamaya, and Anandamaya. So what are these 5 different departments of existence? So in the beginning of our life, of all living entities, we become food conscious. Right? So a child or an animal immediately becomes satisfied by nice food. And this is a stage, the first stage of consciousness, in which the goal is to eat as much as you can. If you come to the farm in the spring, you'll see the mother birds build a nest. How they do it is a miracle. They just have a beak, right? They don't have arms, right? So they go and get grass and maybe sometimes some mud, and they make this very nice nest. And they usually go up high somewhere. So they usually build, every year there's one nest made in our barn for the cows, in the small barn. And then she goes out and gets worms and other things and brings it back. And then you hear the little babies chirping, chick, 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 like that. They can't even see yet. Their eyes have not developed completely, but their mouths are open and waiting for her to drop something in it. It's just a miracle, And then she's going to teach them how to fly also, And eventually it happens. Usually maybe sometimes one falls down or falls out of the nest, and we try and put it back in again if it's not too much damaged. So you see this every year. I mean, it's just amazing how and they're all chirping and their beaks are open. They're just waiting for their mother to throw something in their mouth, right? And that way they grow. So the female bird is just an amazing architect, as well as supplier of food and so forth, and protection. First, there are eggs that she has to sit on and keep warm with her body until they hatch. So the whole thing, I mean, when you look at it, it's all going on. And this is only one species. Look at all the other species, We have rats. They're also producing, sometimes 8, 10 kids at one time, And they're feeding them, and they're doing everything also. The rats have milk also. I mean, there's different qualities of milk. You have milk from pigs, you have milk from horses, you have milk from cows, you have milk from rats. I hope you never drink rat milk. But the mother rat has milk. The cats have milk. Dogs have milk. So a child or an animal is satisfied only by getting nice food. This stage of consciousness, in which the goal is to eat sumptuously, is called Annamaya. Anna means food. So after this, one lives in the consciousness of being alive. This is called Pranamaya. You see that you have, you begin to see that you have a body and it's able to move around. And you see that there are other bodies also, like this, your mother's body, your father's body, and they're living and they're active. So when you see that, some things are alive, right? So therefore, you begin to become aware of the necessity to protect yourself. You don't want to be attacked or destroyed. And if you feel protected, then you're happy, or at least you're calm. So this stage is called pranamaya, or consciousness of one's existence. So when there's a little baby, they also feel pain, but it's not as much as when they get to be a little bit older and they get to the pranamaya stage. They can really start screaming and getting upset, when things don't go right, or when they feel pain, or they get hurt. So because they're conscious, now they've become more conscious of their existence beyond simply eating. And then after this stage, one is situated in the mental platform, manamoya, where one begins to think and explore the world and try and understand things. So the whole materialistic civilization is situated in these three stages. That is, anamoya, pranamoya, and manamoya. And usually they don't go any further than that. So the majority of people are in these three stages or three departments of existence. So they're into eating, they're into relating to other people, and being very conscious about protecting themselves, and then they're trying to understand things with their mind and conceptualize concepts. Okay, so, and their main concern is economic development, making money and spending it for sense gratification. You can see that in Costco. You want to learn philosophy, you go to Costco. You'll see material nature at its best, right? Everyone's running around trying to buy something, and they fill up their baskets or whatever, shopping carts, with tons of things, right? And they have the money to pay for it. They take their credit card out and pay for it. So this is economic development. Just like Trump, he based his whole presidency on economic development. But you see, one little virus destroyed his whole, let's say, philosophy. So economic development is not the solution for humanity's problems. In fact, it may just complicate humanity's problems. The more economic development you have, the more you forget Krishna, and you get puffed up with false ego, like Trump. So you see Trump eating. If you want to see examples of what's being said here, you look at people, right? So you look at Trump. His big thing is eating hamburgers, right? You get a bun, you put a piece of meat in it, you open your mouth really wide, you bite it and eat it, and you say, "Oh, this is good," right? But actually, it's very bad, and it just gives. It'll lead to indigestion and acidity and digestive problems and so forth. You can't really. Human being body is not made for eating meat. You can eat meat, but you're not going to be able to digest it properly, and it's going to cause a lot of problems. Why is it that most men, when they get to be 40, 50 years old, they have to have a colonoscopy? Look that up, colonoscopy. By the way, it's very embarrassing yeah, look that up. It's very embarrassing because sometimes the doctor, huh? Yeah. They'll stick something up your anus. Sometimes it's a finger, or sometimes it's a probe. Trying to figure out, what crap you ate that's getting you sick. But we know what it is meat, and all the other junk things they eat. What does it say? Colonoscopy. Can you read into the microphone, please? It
is an exam used to look for changes such as swollen, irritated tissues, polyps, or cancer in the large intestine.
And cancer, yeah.
In the large intestine, colon, and rectum.
Okay. Okay, look up now how many people die of intestinal cancer in a year in the United States. It's a big thing. And men, because they eat more meat than women do. Women eat about not quite 3/4 the same amount of meat as men.
So, about 52,580 deaths during 2022 for colon cancer.
You see, it's a big thing, colon cancer. Why? Because they're filling their intestines up with something that they can't digest. That's why you get this acidity that goes into your bloodstream and changes the pH of the blood and causes osteoporosis and fragility of the bones, and so many things happen when you eat meat. It can't be digested by the human being. Now, if you compare the intestinal tract of a lion or tiger to the intestinal tract of a human being, okay, that's your homework for tomorrow. Compare the intestinal tract of a tiger to the intestinal tract of a human being. You're going to be surprised. There's such a huge difference. Because the tiger is a meat eater. Therefore, he has the body for eating meat. The human being is not supposed to be a meat eater. They can eat meat if they want to, but they can't digest it like the tiger or the lion or the cat. So when you learn these things, then you say, wow, nobody should be eating meat. It's dangerous. You're killing yourself. You get colon cancer and polyps and this thing and that thing. Okay, so the first concern of civilized persons, well, those people who are regulated somewhat, is economic development. The next concern is defense against being annihilated. And the next consciousness is mental speculation, the philosophical approach to the values of life. So when you get to the manomaya, the mental stage, these three things happen. Or these three things become important. Economic development and protection against being killed, and then mental speculation and philosophical approach to the values of life. So, Trump's philosophical approach was economic development, and then eat hamburgers and hot dogs, right? Now, Trump gave up smoking and drinking because his brother died. He had a brother that died very badly because he was a smoker and a drinker, right? But he was also a meat eater, but Trump missed that point. But he saw what happened to his brother, and that scared him, and he stopped drinking and smoking, right? And he saw what happened to his father also. His father also, I think, died because he was a smoker, drinker, and so forth. Okay, so if by the evolutionary process of philosophical life one happens to reach the platform of intellectual life and understands that he is not this material body but a spirit soul, then okay, so that stage is called Vijnana Moya. He understands, I'm not this body, I have a soul. But that's still on the material level. It's better. It's a good level because you understand the difference between the body and the soul. But still, you're affected by matter and material desires. So, but then by evolution in spiritual life, by practicing spiritual life under the instruction of bona fide gurus, one can make more advancement and develop one's relationship with Krishna. That's the most important relationship we can develop. Then that means that one comes to Krishna consciousness. And that's called Anandamaya stage. You become happy. You're no longer disturbed by what's happening in the material world, what's happening to your body. Because I'm not this body. Okay, I can feel pain, that's a fact. But it's only in the body, it's not related to the soul. Therefore, one can tolerate things and not freak out. Like even our own devotees, as soon as they have something a little bit wrong, they immediately go to the ER, right? Or their little kid has an earache, they take them to the ER, right? And then they're surprised. They say, "Well, just take a little Tylenol, you'll be okay." They say, "Wait a minute, I mean, you're not going to operate on them? You're not going to? No, just take some Tylenol, that's all." A lot of times that's what happens. They just tell you to take Tylenol. Have you ever experienced it?
My daughter was throwing up, and then we took to the emergency, and they just give some pill and something, and she's fine. But I had to pay $1,200 for that.
$400.
$1,200
$1,200
for 10 minutes only. They just treated. That's it. I mean, nothing. They didn't do anything. I took it to Issaquah.
You could have come to me. It would have been free. Wow. Did they give the Tylenol for free or the pills?
She was vomiting, so
Yeah.
and she had like 10 or 12 vomits. So we just scared like maybe.
Did they give it to you, the medicine, or you had to go buy it at a
We
drugstore?
went there and they gave something like there itself.
They gave you something there,
Yeah.
and they
we-
charged you $1,200.
Yeah.
I'm
For
in the
10,
wrong
15
business.
minutes. They just kept for 10 or 15
We
minutes.
got to open a hospital, man. You want to make money? You rip people off. You didn't say why? How come it's so much money?
I said that's emergency because emergency is very costly.
People go. You'd be surprised how many people go to the ER.
It's very costly. Even if you have insurance, it's very costly.
Yeah. Okay, so if one comes to Krishna consciousness, that's called the Anandamaya stage. And what happens there? One becomes happy. One learns to tolerate things. You don't freak out easily and go to the ER. You understand, look, this is not so serious. Let me just change my diet a little bit, change my lifestyle a little bit, and stop eating junk. All the birthday cakes. You know how many birthday cakes kids eat? A lot. Right? Okay, so this is called Anandamaya. That is the blissful life of knowledge and eternity. So this is the difference between oftentimes Christianity or Judaism or Islam and Krishna consciousness. In Krishna consciousness, you're happy. In Christianity, oftentimes, if you look at people in church, they're like, God, please help us, like that. They're always, sad, right? They want to get the mercy. They want to get they don't look like they're ecstatic, that's for sure, right? And Muslims also, they don't look like they're ecstatic. They look like they're mean, and then the Jews, some of them, the Hasidic Jews, they look like they're happy. They're jumping up and down and dancing, and they have these funny hats on and beards, and they're supposed to, dance a lot and look like they're happy, right? But then the devotees, for sure, they're not only happy, they're in ecstasy when they, start chanting and dancing. Okay, so one comes to this intellectual life and understands that he is not the material body, but a spirit soul. And he is situated in Vijnana Maya states. Then by evolution in spiritual life, he comes to the understanding of the Supreme Lord of the Supreme Soul, when one develops his relationship with him and executes devotional service, that stage of life is called Krishna consciousness, the Anandamaya stage. Anandamaya is the blissful life of knowledge and eternity. As it is said in the Vedanta Sutra, Anandamaya Vyasat, the Supreme Brahman and the subordinate Brahman, or the living entities, and the Supreme Brahman, Krishna, or the Supreme Personality of Godhead and the living entities, are both joyful by nature, as long as the living entities are situated in the lower four stages of life, Anamoya, Pranamoya, Manomaya, and Vijnanamaya. They are considered to be in the material condition of life. But as soon as one reaches the stage of Anandamaya, he is a liberated soul, because he's always happy, right? So many things might happen, but the devotee is not affected by it, because he knows, I'm not this body. And he knows that Krishna is going to protect me. And he knows that he's subordinate to the Lord, therefore he should follow whatever the Lord suggests or says. So he has no dualities. He's only going to do what is best for serving the Lord and keeping himself engaged in devotional service. So he's building up this relationship with Krishna. Most people never really develop their relationship with God. They might say so. They might say the word God. They might be going to church, but they don't really have that loving relationship with the Lord. So, therefore, it says, but as soon as one reaches the stage of Anandamaya, he is liberated soul. This Anandamaya stage is explained in Bhagavad Gita as Brahmabhuta stage. There it is said that the Brahmabhuta stage of life, there is no anxiety and no hankering. Brahmabhuta prasanatma na sochati na kankshati. Sochati means hankerings, desires, and kankshati means no miseries, no anxiety. So this stage begins when one is equally disposed toward all living entities. That means one does not have any prejudice against anyone. They can be white, they can be black, they can be Latino, they can be European, they can be Far Eastern people, whatever. One doesn't have any prejudice against people, nor even animals. And it is then expands to the stage of Krishna consciousness, in which one always hankers to render service unto the Supreme Personality of Godhead. This hankering for advancement in devotional service is not the same as hankering for sense gratification in material existence. In other words, hankering or desiring, hankering means you can't get your mind off of it. It's not simply desiring. You just can't get your mind off of it. Your mind always keeps going there. Just like your tongue will always go to the tooth that's hurting. In the same way, your mind is always going to Krishna. So you can't keep your mind, so that's a hankering. It's stronger than simply a desire. So, in other words, hankering remains in spiritual life, but it becomes purified. Similarly, when our senses are purified, they're freed from all material stages, namely Anamaya, Pranamaya, Manomaya, and Vijnanamaya, and they become situated in the highest stage, Anandamaya, or blissful life in Krishna consciousness. The Mayavadi philosophers consider Anandamaya to be the state of being merged in the Supreme. To them, Anandamaya means that the super soul and the individual soul become one. Now, if they become one, there's no more devotional service. You need two people for devotional service, the lover and the beloved. If you become one, there's no more devotional service. So they're cutting their own throats, let's say, because they're going to fall down, because eventually they'll get bored. You don't get bored when there's other people. You get bored when you're alone, right? And really alone. So there's nothing more lonely than the Brahmajyoti. To them, Anandamaya means that the supersoul and the individual soul become one, but the real fact is that oneness does not mean merging into the Supreme and losing one's own individual existence. Merging into the Supreme existence is the living entity's realization of qualitative oneness with the Supreme Lord in his aspects of eternity and knowledge. But the actual Anandamaya blissful stage is attained when one is engaged in devotional service. That is confirmed in the Bhagavad Gita. Mad bhaktim ladpate param. Well, that's a verse from the Brahmabhuta Prasanatma Nasochitina Kangsati Samaksarve Sabhutesu Mad bhaktim ladpate param, which means, here Lord Krishna states that the Brahma Bhuta Anandamaya stage is complete only when there is an exchange of love between the Supreme Personality Godhead and the subordinate living entities. Unless one comes to this Anandamaya stage, his breathing is like the breathing of the bellows in a blacksmith shop. So the bellows are, it's this thing that you go like that and it inhales air and then it exhales, right? So when you go up with it, air comes into it, and when you go down like that, air comes out. So previously they used that to keep a fire going, so because they had to have very hot fire in order to melt iron. And they would make these horseshoes, and you have to bend it, right? And you have to make holes in it, and you have to nail it to the bottom of the foot of the horse, right? So you need a very hot fire to be able to make the horseshoe, which the horseshoe is like something like this, and they put it on the bottom of the foot, the feet of the horse, so that they can run and not, hurt their feet. Okay, so that is confirmed in the Bhagavad Gita. Mad bhaktim labhate param. Here, Lord Krishna states that the Brahma Bhuta Anandamaya stage is complete only when there is an exchange of love between the Supreme Personality Godhead and the subordinate living entities. Unless one comes to this Anandamaya stage, his breathing is like the breathing of the bellows in a blacksmith shop. His duration of life is like that of a tree, and he's no better than the lower animals like camels, hogs, and dogs. So we see, unless we come to the topmost level, Anandamaya, or Anandamaya, transcendental love and devotion for Krishna, and one's always feeling happiness, one's not affected by anything in the material world, then they have actually become a human being. Before that, they're on the level, or we're on the level of animals, right? Or even worse. Okay. So, therefore, this verse, 18th chapter, 54th verse, Brahma Bhuta Prasanatma Naso Chitina Kangsati Samak Sarve Sabhute Su Mad Bhaktim Lapate Param, which says what? One who is transcendentally situated at once realizes the Supreme Brahman, meaning Krishna, and becomes fully joyful. He never laments or desires to have anything. He is equally disposed toward every living entity. So that's key right there, equally disposed. He treats everyone equally. And we'll talk about that in a second. In that state, he attains pure devotional service unto me. Well, Vidya Vinaya Sampane, Brahmani Gavi Hastani, Sunichaiva Swapakecha, Pandita Samadarshina. So the 5th chapter, 18th verse, is 18th verse, is saying that the person who is experiencing Brahmabhuta Prasanatma, is completely self-satisfied. Brahmabhuta Prasanatma, ma sochati na kangsati. He has no hankerings and no miseries. Right? So, therefore, it is not affected And he sees everyone equally. He has equal vision. Let me find the verse, 5:18. So, therefore, it says, the humble sages, by virtue of true knowledge, see with equal vision a learned and gentle Brahmana, a cow, an elephant, a dog, and a dog eater, or an outcast. So he has this equal vision. He doesn't say, oh, this person is good, this person is bad. He sees that everyone is a moving, talking, walking mandir, because Krishna is in the heart. So he doesn't discriminate on the basis of the body. And then it says, Ihaivater jita sargo yesam samye stitam mana. Those whose minds are established in sameness and equanimity have already conquered the conditions of birth and death. They are flawless like Brahman, and thus they are already situated in Brahman. So, equanimity means your mind is always calm. You have this mental calmness, especially in the most difficult situations. You don't freak out, as they say. And you're not disturbed. Okay. And why? Because you have something so great that far eclipses anything like material suffering. And so equanimity of mind, in other words, your mind is always equal, it doesn't get disturbed. Why? Because you know I'm not this body. As mentioned above, is the sign of self-realization. Those who have actually attained to such a stage should be considered to have conquered material conditions, specifically birth and death. As long as one identifies with this body, he is considered a conditioned soul. But as soon as he is elevated to the stage of equanimity, in other words, always being very calm, even in the most difficult situations, through realization of self, he is liberated from the conditional life. In other words, he is no longer subject to take birth in the material world, but can enter into the spiritual sky after his death. The Lord is flawless because he is without attraction or hatred. Similarly, when a living entity is without attraction or hatred, he also becomes flawless and eligible to enter into the spiritual sky. Such persons are to be considered already liberated, and their symptoms are described below. So, how do we get to that position? It's by progressive Krishna consciousness. It is possible. Look at Prabhupada. He was traveling around the world. He had severe case of diabetes, but it didn't stop him from translating and writing all these books, and then traveling and meeting up with so many devotees and inspiring them to be Krishna conscious. And right up to the last moment, he was translating his books. You see the videos. So although his body was full of pain, still he just tolerated it. He didn't take any painkillers or anything like that, right? Because his mind was always focused on Krishna and his Guru. So a person who neither rejoices upon achieving something pleasant nor laments upon obtaining something unpleasant, who is self-intelligent, who is unbewildered, and who knows the science of God, is already situated in transcendence. So these are some of the qualities of a liberated devotee. It says the symptoms of the self-realized person are given herein. The first symptom is that he is not illusioned by the false identification of the body with his true self. He knows perfectly well that he is not this body, but is the fragmental portion of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He is therefore not joyful in achieving something, nor does he lament in losing anything which is related to his body. This steadiness of mind is called sthira buddhi, or self-intelligence. He is therefore never bewildered by mistaking the gross body for the soul, nor does he accept the body as permanent and disregard the existence of the soul. This knowledge elevates him to the station of knowing the complete science of the absolute truth, namely Brahman, Paramatma, and Bhagavan. He thus knows his constitutional position perfectly well without falsely trying to become one with the Supreme Lord in all respects. This is called Brahman realization or self-realization. Such steady consciousness is called Krishna consciousness. All right, and okay, we'll stop right there, and we'll continue more tomorrow on this theme of Anandamaya, this transcendental happiness that one feels in Krishna consciousness. Are there any questions?
Hare Krishna Maharaj. In the verse that we discussed, reaching the Brahman. So a person who reaches Brahman, they do not return. They do not take again birth and death, right, Maharaj?
Okay.
Is that also true for the yogis who reach the spiritual effulgence, the Brahman?
If they engage in some devotional service, they have to have some devotional service. You have to have some relationship with Krishna, because Brahman is a spiritual effulgence of the Lord. You can't reach any of those positions without having some relationship with Krishna.
Mm.
How can you develop a relationship with Krishna when you are in the Brahman stage?
Well, we're talking about how to attain the Brahman stage, right? Not in the Brahman stage, if you are a genuine impersonalist, you don't deny that there's something beyond Brahman. So they can make more spiritual advancement, especially if they have a guru, a bona fide guru. If you're a Mayavadi, then you cannot go past it because you don't believe there's anything past it. And therefore you're going to fall down. They're artificially there because unless you have to have some devotional service. Even if you're a Mayavadi, you have to have some devotional service to achieve the position of Brahman, to merging into the Brahman. But you won't go any further because you don't think there's anything further.
Maharaj, I mean, also my understanding is Brahman is full of Vaikuntha planets. Is that true? Or did I miss something?
But the Mayavadis and impersonalists, they don't take refuge on those planets. See, you have to understand the expansion of the material world. And now we're talking about the expansion of the spiritual world, entering the Brahman. The distances between things are unimaginable. So it's just like you shoot a rocket to take you to Mars, and they made a mistake, and you go past Mars. Now you're in open space. You could go indefinitely in open space now, because the distances between planets, between the galaxies, are astronomical. So you could go eternally just flying through space. Of course, you would die. So, and then now we're talking about the spiritual skies, which is much bigger than all the material universes put together, right? 3 times bigger. So the distances are unimaginable. So if you don't believe that they're Vaikuntha planets, then you're not gonna end up on one.
Okay. The abode of Shiva, Kailas, is it also in the material 14 planets or in the Brahman?
So Shiva Tattva is a little more complicated because he's both in the spiritual world and the material world. But in the material world, he takes 9 or 10 Rudra incarnations, and they are slightly influenced by material nature. And in the spiritual world, he also has a planet in the spiritual world where he's not affected by the modes of material nature.
I think something. So, typically spiritual means, should we refer to a Brahman?
Spiritual means that they are not affected by the modes of material nature, and they are engaged in devotional service of the Lord. That is spiritual, right? You can still be in a material body, but be spiritual because you're using the body in Krishna's service.
Okay.
People think, well, spiritual means, you don't have a body anymore, or you have some type of ethereal body with wings, and you're flying up to this spiritual world, which are basically the heavenly planets. But no, you can be liberated in the material body, and that is what's called Anandamaya stage of consciousness, where you're always happy. Okay, we'll stop right there and continue tomorrow. Yes.
Hare Krishna Maharaj.
So now every day on these lectures, I started on the 12th of December, I have a summary of all the verses and the actual verse that we're discussing, and then all the verses. So if you want this, I can send them to you.
That would be great, Maharaj. Maharaj, you were talking about the different stages going from Annamaya to Anandamaya. I think you were talking about
Annamaya, yeah.
Annamaya, sorry, to Anandamaya. So you talked about, gave the example of Trump, but there are a lot of people like him who eat meat, but in the material world they do get a lot of things done. They're very smart. How does that even work?
Trump got a lot of things done.
Yeah,
also.
like how does that? Because with that kind of consciousness and because eating meat affects your health, but how are they able to still get so many things done? Not saying that's a good thing. I was just curious.
Well, because they're in the mode of passion. And people are passionate, they get things done. They build bridges, they build skyscrapers, they build cars, they sell them, and they get rich. And yeah, they get things done, but what's not done is becoming liberated from the cycle of birth and death. So they're just basically traveling up and down in the material world.
Got it. It doesn't stop you from material success. But
No,
from
material success, of course, is very, very. Look at Trump now; all his material success is being destroyed.
Yeah.
You see, so all these things are ephemeral; they're not eternal. And if that's all you know about, then when people lose everything, they commit suicide, or they run away, or whatever. Just like the person, the Bitcoin guy.
Sam Friedman.
Yeah. Now he's arrested. Then he's going to go to jail. He goes from having $32 billion to being arrested and a criminal. Why? Because he hid some of the money. There are billions of dollars missing. So you see how people are so attached. They can't imagine living, starting all over again after being so rich. So they have to steal. He could have started again. He's an intelligent guy. He could have started again. No, they're attached, and because of that attachment, he's going to go to jail. The same with Trump. So we need to learn from these examples, right? So then they get angry, they get scared, they get vicious. All these emotions they're feeling is because of material attachment.
Thank you, Maharaj. Maharaj, one small question. In the Anandamaya stage, you mentioned how they're equally dispositioned to any living entity like Prabhupada. And in that stage, I know they don't suffer when something happens for their body. Do they even feel the pain at all?
I mean, they tolerate it. They tolerate it. Just like, for example, once I saw a person take LSD, and he accidentally put his hand on a hot plate that was red hot, right? But he didn't move it. And then slowly he took his hand, but by that time he was severely burned. In other words, your whole perception of things because of these drugs makes you not feel so much pain, right? I mean, eventually you're going to feel it. You put your hand on a hot plate, you're going to feel it, or you're going to see smoke coming out of your hand, and you know, later on it really hurts, right? So dulling the consciousness, that's what drugs do. They dull the consciousness. That's why people say, oh, you should smoke marijuana, you won't feel so much pain, or you should take heroin, or yeah, it dulls the consciousness, but it doesn't stop the pain. And after the effect of the drug goes away, your hand really hurts, or something really hurts, or you know, you get these painkillers in the teeth, you know, so the dentist can drill your teeth, and you get numb. So while he's drilling, you don't feel anything, right? But later on, when the effect goes away, the pain is like terrible. See? So the more they dull your consciousness, the more you can tolerate pain, right? But in the case of a pure devotee, they don't try and take any drugs, but they will just tolerate the pain. Just like Stalin, you know, he was so afraid of being killed that when he had to get a severe operation, he refused to take any anesthetic. And he had his eyes open. He was looking directly at the doctor while they were operating on him. And it was very painful, right? But he was so scared that they might kill him, he refused to take the anesthetic. You see how people, I mean, you can tolerate severe pain if you want to, you know, if you're inspired enough, right? Either spiritually or materially, you know. So, but the devotee is so immersed in Krishna consciousness that they're not affected by these different setbacks or pains. They just tolerate them, you know, without taking drugs.
Thank you, Maharaj. Hare Krishna.
Hare Bol. Like when a woman is giving childbirth, do they give her drugs?
Not even natural.
No, they don't give drugs, and it's painful, right? But she survives. Yeah.
So, Hare Krishna Maharaj. Maharaj, you have mentioned about the Anandmaya stage, that your mind is not disturbed. Because we know we are not.
Prasanatma. So go ahead.
So because we know we are not this body, but at like our stage, anything happens to body or anything related to that, mind get disturbed like immediately. So even though theoretically we know, but practically when time comes, it's like a disturbance comes along.
Yeah, but later on you'll be able to tolerate much more. Believe me. Yeah. You'll be able to tolerate. Because if you put your mind on Krishna, then you'll forget about the pain. But how do you put your mind on Krishna? By chanting. And you'll see the pain will go away. It won't go away, but it won't disturb you. Okay. So, but you know, don't eat meat, don't engage in the sinful activities. You won't, I mean, Krishna will protect you. And you won't get into these severe diseases that give you extreme pain. Right. Okay, Haribol. Come on, you're singing all the time. Let somebody else sing now. You can sing tomorrow. No, but you're going to sing also. Because she's going to say, and then you're going to say. So you're still singing.
Shri Guru Charana Padma Kevala Bhakati Sadma
Shri Guru Charana Padma Kevala Bandhu Moi Savadhana Mate Bandhu Moi Savadhana Mate Jahara Prasade Bhai E Bhava Toriya Jai Krishna Prapti Hoy Jaha Hoy Te Krishna Prapti Hoy Jaha Hoy Te Guru Mukha Padma Vakya Chitte Te Koriya Aikya Prasade Pure Sarva Asha Ye Prasade Pure Sarva Asha Chakshudan Dilo Jai Janme Janme Prabhu Se Chakshudan Dilo Jai Janme Janme Prabhu Se Divya Gyan Hridaya Prakashito Prema Bhakti Jaha Hoite Avidya Vinasa Jate Prema Bhakti Jaha Hoite Avidya Vinasa Jate Vede Gai Jahara Charito Vede Gai Jahara Charito Shri Guru Karuna Sindhu Adama Janara Bandhu Shri Guru Karuna Sindhu Adama Janara Bandhu Lokanath Lokera Jivana Lokanath Lokera Jivana Ha ha Prabhu Koro Doya Deho More Pada Chaya Ha ha Prabhu Koro Doya Deho More Pada Chaya Ebe Jas Gushuk Tribhuvana Ebe Jas Gushuk Tribhuvana Srila Prabhupada Patita Pavana Jaya Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada
Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada.
Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada.
Jaya Guru Deva, Jaya Guru Deva, Jaya Guru Deva, Jaya Guru Deva.
Jaya Guru Deva, Jaya Guru Deva, Jaya Guru Deva, Jaya Guru Deva.
Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Prastaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namine. Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvisesha Sunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine.
Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Sunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine.
Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadara Shrivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda.
Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda
Nityananda
Shri Advaita Gadadara Srivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, His Divine Grace, Sri Bhaktivedanta Goswami Maharaj, Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai, Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jai, Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai, Prem Shri Kaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasudeva Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai, Shri Radha Krishna Gopinath, Samakunda Radha Kunda Giri Govardhan Ki Jai, Shri Vrindavan Dham Ki Jai, Mayapura Dham Ki Jai, Jagannath Puri Dham Ki Jai, Tulsi Devi Ki Jai, Bhakti Devi Ki Jai, Ganga Maya Ki Jai, Jamuna Maya Ki Jai, Samaveda Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai, Nitai Gaura Premanand. All glories to assembled doors, all glories to assembled doors, all glories to assembled doors, all glories to Shri Guru and Shri Guru, all glories to Srila Prabhupada, Patita Bhavani Ki Jai, Gaura Premanandi, Haribo, Haribo.
The lotus feet of our spiritual master is the only way by which we can attain pure devotional service. I bow to his lotus feet with great awe and reverence. By his grace, one can cross the ocean of material suffering and obtain the mercy of Krishna. My only wish is to have my consciousness purified by the words emanating from his lotus mouth. Attachment to his lotus feet is the perfection that fulfills all desires. He opens my darkened eyes and fills my heart with transcendental knowledge. He is my Lord, birth after birth. From his ecstatic prema emanates, by him ignorance is destroyed. The Vedic scriptures sing of his character. Our spiritual master is the ocean of mercy, the friend of the poor, and the Lord and master of the devotees. O Lokanatha Goswami, O Master, be merciful unto me. Give me the shade of my lotus feet. Your fame is spread all over the three worlds.